You've seen those videos of people tell you about how FPV changed their life, how it made their life better, how they were gonna die from all the drugs they were doing, or how they weren't able to walk because they were stuck in a wheelchair, and now all of a sudden the world of FPV has made their life amazing. And if that's you, I'm very happy for you. Let me tell you about how FPV's almost done the opposite. Since I was 19, I built a business doing hair, and I built a business breeding reptiles. Then COVID came and shut down my hair salon. I was stuck at home all the time, so I decided to become a YouTuber. I started doing that till one day I thought it would be a good idea to feed a snake with a toy drone. I'm the first person in the world to feed a snake with a toy drone. But then, I thought, maybe I'll get a better toy drone. Imagine that. You're at the park playing with your children, and here comes this giant drone holding a rat, and a snake eats it, and everyone's terrified, and the crowd goes wild. Wouldn't that be wonderful? This is the way my mind works. I have this problem where, through research, I discovered FPV, and I was like, what? You can fly? You mean my dream of flying my whole life could come true? I could really be able to fly? And then I got obsessed. I watched every single FPV drone video there is. I bought like everything, 3 bind and flies, and realized that they were all garbage. So then I got into 3D printing so that I could design something better. This is what happens to me all the time. Here's an example. There's a guy that does 3D printing, and he made this for us. He says, oh, this is a filament cleaner. And so I print this filament cleaner, and it doesn't screw closed properly, and look at all the wasted material. I designed my own. You see how cute and little it is? And it has a nice little cap, and it closes, and it's a filament cleaner. But mine is better than the one, and like, I find this crazy because this is from a dude that does it all the time, that designs all the time. That's what he does. He 3D prints stuff. And this is from me, the hairdressing snake breeder, and mine's better. There's this problem in FPV. The parts are being designed by manufacturers of electronics. They're not being designed by other pilots. Very few are, and the best ones usually are. So the best drones that you see out there are drones that are designed by pilots that fly them all the time. This is an example of, it's the cheapest, best drone that you can buy, but this frame is terrible. There's too much space for the stack, and the reason they do that is so that they can stick a Vista in there without nakeding it. But because of that, when it hits, there's more leverage for things to bend. The arms are all crappy, and the thing just falls apart. I've spent the past 2 years designing this drone, but that's not what this is about. This is about how I went from someone that used to spend a lot of time enjoying life, less time working because I had my hair salon that made me money and my snakes that made me money. When I do a haircut, I make $50 to $80. Boom, haircut, money. So I thought, with everything that I've done so far, I'd make money with my hobbies. Maybe I could start a drone business. I want you to see the chaos. Look at all this stuff. Lots of this stuff I have to throw out because it's broken. No, and then there's stuff that works. But I just want to show you what has happened to me, because this whole hobby has just cost me a ton of money and hasn't really made me much. But let's go through a journey down memory lane and what's going on and why this happened, so that you can think about it and decide if this is something you want to get into, or if you're like me and you've done this, maybe we have an emotional connection. Trying to make an emotional connection with like-minded people. And know, if I'm this crazy, just me, or are there others? There's someone out there who feels just like me. With FPV frames. My first frame, it was the Tadpole and the Atom RC. It's the arm's cracked, so it doesn't work, and the Petrol. Every single one of them, I bloody broke the front right arm. So I had a busted motor. But this, you see, this takes a bloody 16 by 16 stack, 9mm motors. This one only takes the 16 by 16, and they all take different motors and stuff. I have these 3 broken drones. Why can't I just swap the motors or swap the parts? But the thing is that the frames only work for those electronics. This problem happened where I have 3 broken drones, all the parts that I could have a working drone, but it's not going to happen because none of the parts are compatible with each other. So I started hunting. What is the perfect sub 250 drone? I came across this drone called the Patch Ray. The Patch Ray is the most amazing like sub 250 drone out there at that time that I flew. Where is it amongst all this chaos? The Patch Ray is amazing because the Patch Ray is a true X. It's a 3-incher and it was designed by a guy named Pavel. Where is he? Somewhere. Dubai. But in Dubai, things got illegal, so business isn't the greatest, I guess, either. The thing that bothered me with it is the dangling cord and also not being able to put the battery on top, because everyone in freestyle seems to have the battery on top and racers seem to have the battery underneath. But this has a nice balance because you stick the battery underneath, you can put the GoPro or whatever on top. A super popular drone was the Baby Hawk 2. This isn't the Baby Hawk 2, but the Baby Hawk 2 was like a bit wider. And the big thing that you would feel when flying it is that it, like the up and the bottom and the top, you don't have this nice fluid movement. Like you have a movement from top to bottom. With the Patch Ray, you didn't have that. It just would spin perfectly. We had this fun with these three. I spent probably a summer flying the Patch Ray. That summer, I broke, we got 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 broken Patch Rays from that summer, and I'm sure I broke some more. I had a whole fresh brand new setup that I flew out and I lost the signal. It was analog. But the nice thing with the Patch Ray is you could do this analog build, but then with the larger canopy like this canopy, then you could use vistas and you could do a larger build. So it wouldn't be as tight. Get it right, get it tight. But just by having a different canopy, you could fit in a larger stack. So I went from flying these analogs to vistas, naked vistas. So I stripped a pile of naked vistas. I started flying the naked Patch Ray, and that was the summer. Then I was like, I want to design my own, something kind of like the Patch Ray, but I want it to have the option to be able to put the battery on top. Started teaching myself how to 3D design and 3D print. I started making what I called the Psycho.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
I had this design and I was trying to figure out how I could stick the OG DJI camera. I was like, if I have these holes in the drone, then I can sit the camera in there. These were kind of inspired by like Phil Hunter and his designs, the Venom and Carnage and that kind of stuff. I'd always be seeing him, and he was like the only guy that was actually doing what I wanted to do. Like he was designing these drones. So I worked on it, different iterations. So there's that, something like this. And I wanted to be able to somehow, you know, stick the strap into things and everything together. Also be able to have the larger motors or the smaller motors. But do you see what ends up happening with this design? The holes are bigger, so they also make this a lot weaker. So the break points at the edge, and that won't do. Also, these end up being a weak spot too. After doing a few of these, I didn't know how to design stuff well, so I just cut the arms off to make like a top plate, which is not a great idea. After a pile of those, I started moving on to this. I drew as like really circular. No, it went on to like this. This was ugly to me, like this. So that one was called the Psycho. This was going to be called the Ballerina. But the Ballerina, it was going to have room for a stack here and another stack back there. The thing that I hate about so many drones is they look like flying coffins. And this looks like a flying coffin. I just didn't like it. It would work, but I just really didn't like this design. And I kept trying doing different things. I tried to round it off, make it more thick, still ugly and heavy. And then I tried doing this and this, like, because I like round. I wanted it to be round. But this looks like a potato. So I don't want to have a flying potato. Oh no, potato. Finally, I found like this balance in between, like round and sharp. I called it the Great Discus because it's great. At this point, I still hadn't figured out how I'm laying everything out yet. So I designed it so that I'd be able to use these type of flight controllers, put them on, and be able to still access that port. If the flight controller was something more like this is the Baby Hawk flight controller, then I could put it on top and I could use that hole to be able to strap the battery. toilet tanked or regular. It'll take Whoop electronics. It'll take 20 by 20. It'll even take 30 millimeter stacks. And I changed the design of the motor holes to only use 3 at a time. Smaller motors or the bigger motors, but you're only going to be able to screw in 3 screws. The top of the discus, you can take the battery toilet tanked or normal. You can put a smaller camera, a larger camera, but I have videos all about the discus. Finally, I finished making the discus and the design, bumpers and everything. But this is a sub 250 drone. You can build it around 100 to 130 grams, and it's solid. You can get it in all sorts of thicknesses. This is the mount I just made for the HD0 90 Hertz cam. Different colors and variations. To make that drone, I've spent 2 years designing and making these drones. It cracks just like any other drone, like in the arm. But for the most part, it is pretty solid frame. I wanted to make something that you could basically take a cheap drone and put it on and then have that premium feel. My latest Crux 35 V2, see, first time flying it, we cracked the arm. So we'll be making a video how to basically take this drone and stick it on a discus frame. I'll have a video where I just stick it on. I'll have another video where I modify it a bit more and make it even like better. Different levels of doing it. Just like how you can just take something apart, put it somewhere else. Started messing around with whoops. Okay, so my first whoop was this AE65, and I believe that the flight controller is here. And it flew for a day, and then flew a ESC, and that was the end of that. That was my first whoop, and it died after a day of flying. Like, I don't want to spend $160 on a stupid little drone that flies like crap and gets destroyed. And the thing is, because they're so little, for races and stuff, the little ones are fun and they're zippy and like you can kind of control them like more and faster because they're light. But the thing to understand with these guys is that because they're smaller, they drop fast. It's like they shoot up faster and they drop faster. So throttle control is much harder on a whoop like this than on a 75 millimeter. The 75 Pro, there's much more prop area, so it doesn't drop or fly up as much. So yeah, it's heavier, it's not as zippy, but it's easier to control. It's a lot more smooth because you have that, and the frame's not as flimsy. The digital patch ray, I was flying, and I was flying with all these naked vistas, and I killed a lot of them. And every time you smash a vista, it's like $200. I was flying digital because you start off with your analog. You know, my first headset was one of these Ishin 800. I sold it to my buddy, and then I kind of wanted another one, so I went and bought another one on Marketplace, and it was broken. I got so angry, I like took it apart. And then I took my watch apart, and I turned it into a FPV goggles, but that was frustrating. Now I got another one of these, but this doesn't really work the greatest, so I might take it apart and add a module to it. And then I got the SkyZone 04X, and these are like top of the line analog goggles, and I love them, but right after I bought them they died, like the screen turned off. So I sent them to SkyZone, and SkyZone was actually awesome. It took half a year to get them back, but they gave me one of the newer modules and SkyZone strap. Just great customer service. I was very happy, even though it just took a long time. Wanting to learn more things. So it's just like these antennas are about $100 and they work great, but you can get a set of 2 of these for about $30 on Amazon, and they work just as good as these ones. But then they're hanging off your goggles and you have to take them off all the time. And screwing them on and screwing them off, you can probably break something over time. I hate tiny whoops. They're terrible. I said to myself, I'm gonna do one more chance. I'm gonna just buy all the tiny whoops. If they're all crap, I'm never gonna do this again, because I'm not happy with just flying one drone. Like, I want to fly one drone, but I want to fly the best drone. And how can you fly the best drone if you don't know what drone is the best drone if you haven't flown them? I got the Mobeetle 6, Mobula 7S, the 75, the 75 Fractal, the 65 Pro, And then you get all these 1S batteries, right? And then you find out that all these 1S batteries are crap, so you need the GNB 27 connector. Oh no, actually you need the BT2 connectors, because they're the best. So then you get a pile of BT2 connectors, and then you got to change your things, and then every single one of these bloody things just starts being sketchy and breaks and doesn't work. And Pro 75 came out, and I got the Pro 75, and that's like my favorite. But then I got the Pro 75 HD0, and it got ran over by a bus. It's too much money, man. It's just too much money. And I get the Jumper T6, the Jumper T16, because it's cheap, and it stops working. Something breaks with it, so I call them up, and the Jumper people tell me to undo these things. So I undo these things, and it still doesn't work, and they don't do anything about it, so it's gone. I started off buying a Tango 2. And the Tango 2 was like $250. I had that for a while. The Crossfires kept dying on me, so I have like these Crossfires, and the Crossfires fail-safed on me. Plus with sub 250 drones, they're a pain in the butt to connect something like this onto something like onto such a little drone. Is it Tadpole? I ripped off the micro USB, so now I can't program it or anything. So there goes that. That's dead. Everything just died. Everything HGLRC, ESC dead. This was for my first patch ray. HGLRC dead before I could even use it. The thing came off too, the micro USB, and it seemed like it was just glued on. Another HGLRC, the petrol wasn't working, so they sent me one of these, and same thing, this flight controller was dead too. So I got 2 dead HGLRCs. Every motor that came from them was just crap. Every electronic that I've ever got from HGLRC was crap. And then this was a beta FPV for my 85. All I wanted to do here was kind of like update the firmware. I put it on beta flight 4.4, and I started it, and the thing blew up. It sucks because the beta 85 was a good drone and it worked fine. So that was kind of sad. Then like 3 of these little X controllers with the messed up gyro doing funny things. There's this Happy Model Crux 35 that exploded on me too. However, the first Crux 35 that I ever got, that flight controller is still holding steady. So this is like some sort of miracle flight controller, because it lasted all this time. The reason the other one blew up was because I put bigger motors on it and then tried to turtle.
I like turtles.
So it was too many amps, so it just blew up that flight controller. And then I started trying to do like action cams, and the first time I flew an action cam, I smashed it so hard that it broke the memory card. How could this happen to me? And I did the stunt that I wanted to, but the memory card got cracked. So it's like I didn't even get that footage. And this is the drone from that crash, the Crux 35. The 2 sides were gone, just totally ripped apart. Yeah, here it is. Here's the middle of the drone. So all that was left was like the camera, the battery, and the drone. These were pretty good. The Gemku 35 amp all-in-ones with the M6000. A few of those were pretty nice and solid. HD0, just I had bad fortune with it, but right now I'm designing the nano mount, and I have it at 0 degrees. I want to fly 3D with it. I'm gonna make some more focus. I'm gonna make some more different mounting options for different angles, because this will be kind of like the Tiny Trainer killer. It's way lighter, it's stronger, it's faster, all that fun stuff. Then messing around with all the DJI stuff. This is a good camera, the Pro. This is a terrible camera. It's Runcam Phoenix, absolute garbage. After doing a whole summer of digital stuff, I decided I'm going back. I tried analog. I tried one of the Crux 35s, and it was such a good experience. I was like, oh my God, this is instant. This is amazing. So I went back to analog. That's when I started designing the Discus, and I wanted to carry different action cams. So I started getting like dash cams and stripping them naked and trying to do stuff like this. It's like still too heavy. Some cameras I could find, I'd strip them like this. And then I designed a mount that I can just kind of strap any camera onto with my Discus, and there's a little hole so I can zip tie anything to it. Honestly, you're better off just going with the Thumb Pro and buying GoPros, right? Like, 'cause GoPros are bloody expensive, so you buy a GoPro. Like this broken GoPro 10 was $300, and that's a good deal. So finding stuff like this on Marketplace and testing it out, and then I'm going to take it apart and put it in a discus too, because the discus is better. And then getting into 3D printing and getting all the filaments and testing out carbon fiber and TPU and hard TPU and bad TPU, and then getting a charger, and the charger doesn't work, so then they got to send you another one, but that takes forever too. And then parallel charging, and things start blowing up, and then you start rebuilding them and putting them back together, and then you get another one, and then this board doesn't work as well as that one, and you can't just get a charger, you need a power supply for the charger. And then because of being a business person and always doing like business with the snakes and with the salon, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. I can just start my FPV business. So then I start ordering batteries from companies wholesale. So I get these batteries for about $9 American. So I get a whole pile of batteries, but then by the time conversion and shipping comes, they all end up costing about like $15. And now I'm trying to sell them for $20 or $25. So I had to spend $15 to make 5, and then I have to like go and beg people, hey, buy my batteries, or like try to sell things. And people in the FPV community are so cheap. They're like, oh, can you send me the STL? Which is fine, like if you're sharing and doing all that stuff. But it's like when you try to actually, like, I don't want to make a ton of money. I just want to make enough to be able to kind of pay for my hobby and to be able to keep developing it. If I could make enough money just to cover developing and like making more better stuff for myself and everyone, then great. But to spend $15 for a battery to sell for $20 and make a $5 profit and have to hold on to them for like a year, it's a terrible business model. I don't know how anyone that owns an FPV store survives. So support them, support me. Join my Patreon, buy one of my frames. I can't even sell drones, because if I was to buy like all the parts that I want to build the custom drone and then sell it to you, it would end up costing you like way more, like $500 versus buying a Crux 35 for $200. So instead, I'm gonna be doing Crux 35 conversions. I sell the frames, I'll sell the drone, and you can do it yourself, or you can pay me to do it for $100. I'll build it for you and tune it. Still spending hours doing that versus doing a haircut and making $80 like that. Messing around with batteries, wanting the most flight time, so flying a GND 900, then doing like the R-Lines 850s. The Kodar 750s. Now I'm at the Kodar 650s. When I'm done all my batteries, I'm gonna go to Dogcom, because the new Dogcom 550s are 20 grams lighter. They're made with a new technology that's lighter, so I'm gonna start using those batteries. And then motors. I bought tons of motors, 50 motors at a time, to be able to get a good deal. And then you order stuff from FedEx, and you pay $75 from FedEx, and then they send you another charge of $16. Put in my first like big order with the drone people in my community, and the bill, it came up to $1,570 American dollars. Once I convert that into Canadian and send it, it ends up costing me $2,079. That's like a $600 difference from American to Canadian. I have to go through that, and that took me forever. Like, I had bad ADD and collecting prices from everyone and whatever. By the time all the costs and everything came by, I maybe profited $100. And honestly, it's probably not even worth $100 to go through the time of messaging everyone and trying to find out what everything is. So this is just becoming a big terrible rant. Runcam cameras, this thing, the negative versus positive, their wires are like, it's wired up differently than most, so I think I fried a couple of these accidentally, but I kept all the parts because you never know. Sometimes you can take little components off of other components that break and fix them. I know nothing about that, but I've done it. I've swapped pieces on Vistas and fixed them before. Or another thing you can do is, if you save your top and bottom board, usually one of the boards breaks and the other one doesn't. So then later on, if another one breaks and you have a working top, then 2 broken ones can make 1 working one. Runcam over here, direct soldered it, and then it stopped working, and I didn't do anything wrong, so I don't know what happened there. And this one just started twitching and doing funny things. Like, all these bloody parts that you get start going wrong. The Baby Hawk was a piece of garbage. It blew a ESC. So I'm gonna throw out all this stuff, but before throwing it all out, I wanted to make a video to show like the amount of like money that is spent. I got a Cinelog 25, I hated that, so I'm gonna test this out. Even this doesn't take this type of flight controller. I had to 3D print a part to be able to put this flight controller on there. I'm gonna port this over to this guy to make a Fox Swoop, and if this is not as good as the Discus, And then I take these guys. So I saw Albert Kim flying with these things. They're super light. You can put them on the discus and you can make a cine rig, and it works really well. Nice. But the last one I built was on 2.5 thickness, and because it was so thin, it flew well inside. When it went outside, it would be a little bit too wobbly. So I'm gonna try this as like my last version before going to discus Cinelog thing, which I call the Cineman. So this is pretty cool. This is the Mobula 8. I made this print and ordered a shorter MIPI cable. So with the shorter MIPI cable and my print, I still got to redo it to make the print go around the lens and connect to the ND filters. Once I get that made, it'll probably be even lighter, but right now this thing weighs 59.6 grams. I'm putting up a build video. I don't know if it's already up, but this, I'm not giving it away because I spent too long making it. I'm going to have a Patreon group for my 3D prints where basically you join my Patreon for $5 and every month you can get one of my prints and you just have to pay the shipping and I'll ship you the print. It's going to be like a print club. So by supporting me, you have access to the prints that I spent forever to make. My prints for the discus and other prints that I made before, they're all going to be free. You can print them yourself. But when you join my print club, you're going to be able to every month just ask me for one of the prints that you want and I'll send it to you. So you can get one of these and then convert your Mobula 8 to what I call the Lil Punk. The thing is that if I don't start being able to make a little bit of profit off of this or even just cover my expenses, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. FPV has it's ruined my life. I used to spend time selling snakes and building up the snake business and time with the salon and promoting that. But because all of the time spent on all this stuff, like I've learned so much and I want to teach you and share that with you, like help you learn from my mistakes. Because it's just, I tested out every 3.5 inch propeller. I tested out every single 2-inch propeller. And I tested out all the little 3-inch propellers and all the all the tiny whoop stuff, all the tiny whoop motors, all the tiny whoop little propellers. And just from testing all this stuff, I found out a whole pile of things that I needed to know that I wouldn't have known if I didn't test these things. So I bought everything so that I could try everything, so I could say, this is the best, this is what I want to fly. And I got there with my discus, and out of all the Picos and the racing drones and stuff, I think that the 75 Pro, flying like indoor races and stuff that aren't like under those leagues. I hate the 65s, and I've been testing, I hate these little motors. All these little motors with the tiny bells that break and die. My favorite motors are the 102s, and they're a little bit heavier, but they're so much smoother. Like this combination of the 1002s on the Pro 75, it's a beautiful combination with the tri-blades. Those are the only gem fams that I actually love. Other than that, I usually like HQ propellers more. You get the analog, then you get the better analog, or you get the digital, and digital looks beautiful. It really does. But I like the way analog feels more. But now that we have these Mobula 8, I think this is just amazing. Like this is a dream drone for like just rip and dips and being able to fly in little spaces and get sick footage. This is the king. And I took it from 88 grams all the way down to 60. Yeah, there's these Pico frames. They're really light. I'm going to do a build. I'm going to build maybe a Polar with this, but I can't. It's not going to fly better than that. I know it because it's just the weight versus the little props, whereas this has bigger props. I tested the HQ props versus the Gem fans because they're lighter, and this is one of the first times too where I think the Gem fan might actually better, but I have to test that out. See, I had these as protectors, but these weigh 2 grams more than these guys. So these guys might be better in something that's going to be maybe bashed a bit more, but as soon as you stick these on a drone, the drone does not fly as well. The 550, 450 batteries are good with the 1S 75 Pros, and you get like 3 to 5 minutes flight time with these guys, which is amazing, versus the little, these guys, you're always flying for like 2 minutes. It's good enough for a race, but other than that, I think they're garbage. 35 Pro and whatever, it's too dinky, it's not strong enough, and okay, then you learn how to do the multimeter stuff. I still don't really know what I'm doing all the time. Spend hours doing that. You get the Fuyun, then there's the next new one, then you get the ELRS, and then try the purple TX, whatever, new coatings, different VTXs, batteries. all the batteries that you break, and I have all these dead batteries that I want to like take apart and use for the power for their XT30s, or take the cells and then build more batteries. And then over here we got more batteries at work that I'm not using right now, charging stuff, experimenting with different options for having power on your head. You can use regular power banks to run your goggles if you run the cord through one of these adapter things. So if you just take this power cord and you put it to the goggles, it won't turn them on. But if you take it and run it through any one of the adapters, that'll be enough to allow power go to your goggles. It's another little fun, silly fact. Trying to power things sometimes is annoying too. Like, it's just like, why doesn't it work? Why does it do that? Why is it that as soon as you take one of these cords and you run them through another one, that makes them work? Well, the frames, getting into FPV can be really crazy. It's nice, the more people that you know, that you can learn as much as you can about it. Lots of people that are around from the past are used to flying the 5 inches, and that's probably one of the most popular categories because of how many people started that way. Back then, there wasn't the option. And even this is a pretty modern one, but there wasn't the option to fly something so little. People get caught up really with, this is more powerful or faster, or the momentum and whatever. The difference between liking a muscle car that has the torque versus a little imported car that has the handling. This is kind of like a Mustang. It has the power, but it drifts. And then this is more like a RX-7. It's zippy and it doesn't drift as much. You can still build it heavy and get a bit more drift out of it, but as you add power, you also add weight. With that weight, it is easier to brake because of momentum, also harder to move. So when you have this and you do a little flip, the time that this takes to flip, this flips faster because it's smaller and lighter. Adding more power also adds more weight. So you always have to think about that, because sometimes the way to make a drone better is to make it lighter. But then once it gets too light, then it gets flimsy and starts shaking and stuff. But then also a drone that's like this, the longer arms and the bigger motors are more prone to vibrations. Whereas something like this, even though it's a single plate, you don't have to worry about resonance and vibrations in like little 3-inch drones. These are all kind of things that I want to make lots of videos to teach you about. I want you to be able to kind of learn from all this craziness that I've gone through and be able to enjoy the creations that I'm making. My wife is going to kill me because I told her today I would clean everything. I just wanted to show you just how crazy it can be and how much time and money you can spend on it. It can be a very profitable business if you're getting jobs doing shoots and stuff, which I'd like to be able to do at some point. But I spent all my time trying to make the best drone, because it would bother me to kind of just fly something and think or wonder if there's something kind of better out there. I flew them all. I know how they feel, and I wanted to make something that's the best for me, that feels the best for me. And that's what I focused on all this time. Everyone is going to be different. So what's best for me might not be best for you, or lots of people might kind of disagree. But without testing all the different things, and without how are you going to know if you like that propeller more if you don't test it? How are you going to know if you like that motor? How do you know? People get so stuck in FPV with, I get caught in these ideas and ways where it's just like this. I can only fly this motor, or I can only fly this propeller, or this popular person is flying that, so I got to fly that. And to me, there is a perfect drone for you, but you'll probably never get to fly it unless you design it. But then maybe you're not good at designing. But it all comes back down to, so subjective, right? Do you want the protection that's just there for the sake of being there, that you have it, or do you want the protection that's actually protection? But this is going to add 8 grams to your drone, and this is going to save 8 grams from your drone. It all depends what you're trying to do and how you're going to do it. So many different ways. The way that I look at things, there's no way that this is better than this. It's just not. It's not designed as well. I can't close it. It wastes more material, and it's larger. This is lighter. It uses less material. It's easy to open and close, and it actually does it perfectly. And it cleans the filament. So my design is superior. And that's how I feel about everything. Once I've tested it and tried all the things like this, I find the thing like this. And maybe that's why you want to subscribe to me, follow the journey, and see the stuff that I'm sharing with you. Because even stuff like, oh, let's go back to the craziness, right? I spent forever finding the best 3D printer that I could find that was the best value and doing the best value upgrades. I spent weeks trying to find that. I've tested out all these different stupid filaments to figure out what filaments I like. Then with getting the soldering iron from the newbie drone kit, and the whole kit was garbage, and the power supply bloody blew up. Meanwhile, Joshua Bartwell is like recommending this to people, and it's just absolute trash, and all of the screws that come with it and stuff are crap too. People are just lying to you, and companies are giving people drones to test that are garbage, and then they're saying they're great because they want to sell them, and it's a whole bloody cycle. I got the best one of these, the Pine 64, and it's okay, but you know, this one worked okay too. And then when it comes down to those, I have this like $80 hot station, and I've used this now. It looks ugly, but I've used this thing now for like 2 years, and that's probably one of the best investments I ever got. A magnifying lens thing, like whatever. This is great too. Sucks up the air for me. The 3D printer is great, but this is one of the greatest tools you could ever have. The power, so that you don't have to unscrew and screw everything by hand. And then not using water and using this instead of water, that's great too, because before, when I used water in a sponge, everything oxidized. It just goes on and it never ends. Never-ending pit to shove your money in. I wanted to just tell you that and share that with you. Have you gone down a similar journey as me? Do you think I'm insane? Did you even make it this far? If you did, thank you. Share your thoughts. It was nice to meet you. And now I gotta clean this up and make dinner before my wife kills me. And I'm probably not even gonna clean it. I'm just gonna make dinner, and my wife is gonna kill me.